What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants, powered by BetUS. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and today, we're changing it up. We're having a little bit of fun. We're answering your questions. We posted on our social media channels a mailbag, and we're here to answer all of the questions that you left on our Instagram, the YouTube comment section, Twitter. We're going to go ahead and respond to your questions in today's episode and have a whole lot of fun. And just a heads up, we just launched the Fireside Discord. It's meant to be the ultimate New York sports fans community. Not just Giants fans, but also Yankees fans, Rangers fans, Knicks fans. Go check it out. It's going to be down below in the description. Join up, talk some sports, New York sports with a bunch of fans just like yourself, and also future mailbag questions. You might have opportunities to get your questions answered in there, direct line to Alex and myself. So go ahead and join the Fireside Discord as well. But Alex, before we dive into these questions and go through the mailbag, I want to ask you how you're doing today and how excited are you for the fact that Malik Neighbors has progressed through concussion protocol?
Freaking great news. I mean, at the very least, if this team is going to be quite non-competitive at times, and we hope they can fight against the Eagles. The Eagles are not a very good team. Even though Saquon's having a good bounce back year, they're 3-2. They looked bad last week. Sirianni's getting absolutely roasted by the media. This is a beatable team. The Giants can win. Even without Andrew Thomas, I think the Giants can win this game. And having Neighbors allows them to have a chance. Whether or not we hit field goals is a different story. But Neighbors, I do think that, his presence on offense, it sustains drives. And even without him, we had 35 minutes of possession last week, still couldn't win 7 points in 35 minutes, which is absolutely, it almost doesn't make sense. I didn't even think that was possible to have that much possession and not score more than 7 points. But in any case, Neighbors coming back is huge. The development of the chemistry is how with Daniel Jones, and obviously what he can do after the catch, the downfield opportunities. I think that we got to start connecting on those. I don't know how Josh Azeedu will be able to handle himself at left tackle, and if they can even throw the deep ball anymore. But if they can, DJ has to connect on his playmakers, and Neighbors has been one of those catalysts. But before we dive into this mailbag, Anthony, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, BetUS. This week they have the Giants as -3, or rather +3 on the odds. So they're 3-point underdogs at -110. Feel like that's a pretty good line for the Giants. I don't know. You tell me. Would you rather take the over or the under on that? I kind of feel like the Eagles. We always feel like a get-right game against the Eagles. I feel like we could lose. We probably lose this one. I don't know by how much, but we'll see. The Giants do have a chance here. I don't think the Eagles are an opponent that we should be scared of. I think they're very beatable. So definitely interested to hear what you guys think about that line. But go over to BetUS and use the code YouTube150 to get 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your next two bonuses, up to $2,000. So, fastest payouts in the industry, live support, really great system over there. Definitely a place they're giving some good odds out where we can make some cash together. But guys, let's dive into the mailbag. Anthony, I'll let you kick us off with the first question of the day.
For sure. First question of the day. It's actually 3 separate questions that we're going to bundle into one from our YouTube community page, from Matty is a Gopher 8407, from Orange Skull 10, and from PKPK VS6VY. Thank you to the 3 of you for dropping those questions on our YouTube community page, and they're all centered around the quarterback position. You had Maddie asking, is it the coach or coach doing a development problem with the quarterback, or is it just Daniel Jones being the problem, which kind of ties into what should the Giants do? Should they do what the Falcons are doing? Find a bridge quarterback by trading for Stafford, maybe, which is who he mentioned, and drafting a quarterback. And could the Giants be a real contender with a legit playmaker at quarterback? I wanted to roll all of those into one because I think they all overlap. First and foremost, could the Giants be a legit contender with a real quarterback and a playmaker at that position? Yeah, I mean, if they had Josh Allen, I think they are legitimate contenders. This is a top 10 defense in the NFL. They rank first in the NFL in sacks, top 7 against passing opponents. This is a great defense. They have a superstar playmaker in Malik Neighbors. Tyrone Tracy looks like a good back, and so does Devin Singletary. And prior to the Andrew Thomas injury, the Giants did have an above-average offensive line. So if you had like a Josh Allen, I'm just using him as the example because he is a playmaker of a quarterback. If you had him in the backfield, yeah, I think the Giants are legitimate contenders. Now, if you're not trying to go as far as a Josh Allen, but like an above-average, really good quarterback, I don't know who that would be, but somewhere in that cluster of maybe even a Kirk Cousins who's really good. I think the Giants are at the very least playoff contenders. So, yeah, in many ways, they probably are a quarterback away. Not from winning a Super Bowl, but from being way more competitive than they are now. I think a quarterback would make all the difference, which again ties into these other questions. I don't think it's about coaching and development. I think that it is Daniel Jones. Like, we know who he is now. It's been 6 years. This is just who he is. I don't expect him to develop further and take that step. I hope he turns a corner and has consistent performances that are positive, but at the end of the day, I think it is a Daniel Jones problem. And I guess, we'll save the third part from Orange Skull about potentially going with a Kirk or, a Stafford for the second half of it. But Alex, when you're looking at it, Giants, if they had a playmaker at quarterback, would they be contenders? And is the quarterback development the problem, or is it just Daniel Jones?
Oh, that's a very good question. If the Giants had a better quarterback, yeah, they'd be in a much better spot. I think that's objectively true. Just look at the Commanders. Went from one of the worst teams in the football, or expected to be with one of the worst teams in football. Jaden Daniels has turned them into one of the best, and they're number one in our division right now. They're a really good club. They're put up a fight against the Ravens last week, who are on fire right now. When you look at just what a great quarterback can do for a team, it changes the course of an organization overnight. Look what C.J. Stroud did for the Houston Texans. Missing on a quarterback can set you back years. Look at Deshaun Watson and the Browns is a good example of that. So, looking at the decision making for the Giants, if they had a better quarterback, if they had a Stafford, yeah, they'd be unbelievably better. Stafford with Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors would be so much fun to watch, but they don't have a Matt Stafford, and they're not going to be getting a Matt Stafford. We would be lucky to have a Matt Stafford. I don't think you guys really understand how good Matthew Stafford is. He'll go down as a Hall of Famer one day. He is one of the most underrated players in the league. Yes, he's a bit older, but if you watch him play, when he has competent pass protection and his receivers are healthy, the guy is unstoppable. He's phenomenal. I mean, he is just a tremendous player, a guy that can win you a championship still, in my opinion. I would acquire him in a second if he was available, but he's not available, guys. Sean McVay is not trading Matthew Stafford with Puka Nacua on the mend, with Cooper Kupp supposed to return this week and getting some healthy pieces back. They still think they can win with him. There's no way. I know this is a stupid rumor. People are talking about it. It's a whole buzz, and it's total nonsense. But we'd be lucky to have a player like that. Don't get it twisted. Looking at anybody else, though, even Kirk Cousins, we could win with him. Absolutely no doubt in my mind we could win with Kirk Cousins. But the Giants are not trying to get more expensive at quarterback, guys. And the reason for that is because they still owe Daniel Jones $20 million next year, even if they cut him. So they have $19 million in savings, about $22 million in dead money they will have to account for. They can spread that dead money over the final 2 years of his contract. But right now, if you want to go after a bridge quarterback, this is a really more in-depth conversation we have to have, Anthony, in the future. That if the Giants go out and get a bridge quarterback, let's say they draft a rookie and the rookie class next year, they're not ready yet. They need some time. I don't think you throw one of those guys in the fire. They need some development, in my opinion. But with that being said, if you want to go get a bridge quarterback, it's going to cost you $10, $15 million to get a one-year bridge quarterback, right? And if you go in that direction, you're basically taking the Daniel Jones money, the $20 million you save, and you're just putting it into another player. Whereas you could just keep Daniel Jones and then cut him with basically no dead money in 2026. I'm not saying I want this. What I'm trying to argue is the financial aspect of it. I just don't know the availability of the players, the quarterbacks next year. Sam Darnold might be one, and unless they decide to extend him, which is possible. Maybe the Giants could go and say, hey, like, we kind of want Tyrod Taylor back, Jets. We'll give you a late draft pick for him. You know what I mean? Like, there's things they could do to go get a backup. Maybe Drew Lock is the guy that steps in and, revives his career. He's the next Geno Smith or the next Sam Darnold. I doubt it. Those are kind of hard to find, diamonds in the rough, but you never know. I just don't know right now if I'm willing to sit here and tell you, like, Daniel Jones won't be the bridge next year. I don't think he will be, but the Giants do have some really interesting decisions to make regarding that financial situation. It's going to be a really, really I'm interested to see what they do. It's going to be a really interesting offseason to see how Joe Schoen kind of manages the situation.
Yeah, and it's so difficult to have this conversation now because we just don't know who's going to be available, whether we're talking in the draft or if we're talking as a bridge quarterback in free agency or even on the trade market. You just mentioned a number of players there, Alex, and I could name several more. What about Derek Carr? Could he shake free and become a bridge quarterback in the offseason, leaving the Saints? Could the Giants end up trading not for Sam Darnold from the Vikings? What about J.J. McCarthy? What if they do extend Sam Darnold? Is McCarthy then going to be on the block? like you just don't know what that market is going to look like. So it's so difficult to project. But yeah, ideally the Giants have a quarterback that they draft next year, and they have a veteran who can play and start immediately. That's what the Giants wanted this year, isn't it? They wanted to have Daniel Jones ready to go by week 1 and have a rookie quarterback who they could develop behind him. That was the ideal plan. Plans didn't go to plan, so they ended up going with Malik Neighbors and rolling back into year 6 with Daniel Jones. That wasn't what they originally wanted to do, though. So next year, I expect them to target a bridge. I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to end up being that bridge, but they will have a bridge quarterback, and they likely will have a rookie, whether that be a first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round draft pick. They're going to have some sort of rookie quarterback on this roster that they hope to develop. So, again, thank you to Maddie as a Gopher, Orange Skull, PK for your questions on the quarterback position. Now, Alex, we have another great question. This one comes from the Fireside Giants Instagram. Make sure everybody go follow. This is from Zebulon Wiener. He asks, should Tyrone Tracy be running back 1? Because he should, he added at the end. Zebulon Wiener, love the name, appreciate the question. Tyrone Tracy as running back 1. Alex, I'm going to let you kick this one off and kind of give your 2 cents on this.
Well, thank you for the question, Wiener. I do think that this is a really great conversation to have, because Tyrone Tracy, look, he's a 5th-round rookie, guys. We loved him coming out of the draft. We talked about him transitioning to running back, obviously from receiver. And with Purdue in his last year with them, 4.44 yards after contact. This guy is a tackle-breaking machine, and he is proving to be the same at the NFL level. I love how decisive he is. He's able to plant his foot, change direction, and expose gaps and space. He was the only running back 2 weeks ago that didn't have a negative yardage play, which is really exciting. Now, the question is, how do the Giants split up the reps here? And I think that someone made a pretty good point. I was like, look, I think that he should be RB1, and he should be getting 70+% of snaps. So somebody said, why run him to the ground right now? The Giants are not a good team. They're probably not making the playoffs. Andrew Thomas is done. Why kind of put more mileage on his legs? And I think that's a good point, and made me rethink my stance on it. And I could see a 50-50 being more realistic. So maybe I have like a RB1A, RB1B type of situation where I think Tracy is the 1A and then Singletary is the 1B. And that's okay. It could be vice versa. It doesn't matter. 50-50 split. Third downs, Tyrone Tracy's getting those looks because of his receiving qualities. And he's a good pass protector too. So I do think right now, 100-yard games back-to-back, Tyrone Tracy's earned the right to more opportunities. He is a key component on offense. They ran multiple drives through him, and he carried us into the end zone on one of them. So I do think that he is going to be a much bigger component moving forward. What a steal in the 5th round. I label him as my RB1. I think that even if he's splitting reps, that's okay. He needs the experience, though, because he has to see those gaps, has to get in rhythm, has to understand what that looks like. The blocking system, getting chemistry with his other teammates, those are all important factors. But to keep the mileage low, Devin Singletary, yeah, he was hot. He was brought in as a $9 million guarantee instead of whatever $23 million guarantee that Saquon got. So he is there to basically take a bruising and carry the ball and do some of the dirty work. Let Tyrone Tracy be the explosive playmaker, get creative with him, and then use Devin Singletary as more of this kind of guy that just takes the brunt of the force and takes some pressure off of Tracy to do all the carry the load by himself.
Yeah, and more on Saquon Barkley in a little bit. But to answer this question as well, should Tyrone Tracy be the running back 1? I think this needs to be a split workload. I think that Tyrone Tracy has proven enough to get an increased share of the targets and the snaps out of the backfield. But I'm actually going to kind of build on something that you said there, Alex, whether it be a 50-50, and kind of have these players play in tandem. Why don't we look right over to the NFC North and take a look at what the Detroit Lions are doing? Now, obviously, Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy are not even close to being on the same level of talent as David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs right now. But I'm just talking on style, the way that those two are utilized. Sometimes, Alex, you'll see David Montgomery play the entire drive. The next drive, he doesn't play a snap. It's all Jahmyr Gibbs, right? And then the next drive, it's all David Montgomery. They literally take turns on a drive-to-drive basis sometimes. That does a few things for you. Keeps your running backs fresh, keeps the defense worn down because they're going up against fresh running backs, and it gives you different coverage looks every single time your offense takes the field, so you can pick things apart much easier. does a lot when you have a versatile skill set in 2 running backs in your backfield. And you can also work it like this, which is something that the Lions do. Sometimes they have different running backs for different zones of the field. The first 20 yards, let's say that the Lions are backed up, it's probably Montgomery. He's your power back. He can fall forward for a few yards and give your offense a cushion away from the end zone so you don't risk a safety. Then for the next 60 yards, it's all Jahmyr Gibbs because he can make those explosive plays, pick up those first downs on a screen or even an angle route, get out of the backfield, pick up those chunk yardage on outside zones as well, get you inside the red zone. Then in the red zone, same way you want somebody falling forward, giving you a cushion from your own end zone, you want someone falling forward, getting into the other end zone. Now David Montgomery is back on the field. I use the Lions as an example because they're probably the premier 2 running back system in the NFL right now. But why can't the Giants try to emulate something similar? For the first 20 yards of the field, Singletary. He's got good vision. He falls forward. He's got some power. Go with him. The next 60 yards, why don't you go ahead and put out Tyrone Tracy? He's got explosive run ability. He's shifty, and he's a great receiver. All of those skills can be utilized in those middle portions of the field. Back in the red zone, okay, now it's back to Devin Singletary. We've seen him score a couple touchdowns in the red zone already this season. He falls forward, and he's got good vision. He makes a lot of sense down there as well. Or you can go the drive-to-drive basis. There are a lot of different ways for an offensive coordinator in the NFL to get creative and utilize the running backs in their backfield. The Giants, they have a creative offensive mind and play caller in Brian Dable. He just needs to go ahead and figure out the ways that he wants to utilize both of these running backs because both of them deserve to be on the field for an equal amount of snaps. That's my full take on it. I actually am kind of proud of myself. That was a great breakdown of how the Giants can get both of those guys involved. Pat on the back, Tony. All right, next question, though. Let's go ahead and dive in. Another one from the Instagram comment section. And I liked this question, Alex, because it does preview this upcoming matchup with the Eagles. This is from Xavier Ainsworth. He asks, how do you think we can stop Saquon? Does he have a glaring weakness we can exploit? And I'll go ahead and immediately kind of give my 2 cents on this. We can stop Saquon. His glaring weakness is his rushing between the tackles. Sometimes when things get a little bit clogged up in that guard to center area, we've seen Saquon dance around a little bit and bounce it outside. So the way to stop Saquon Barkley is to have 2 really good edge setters on the outside and then have a big man clogging the middle. Well, the Giants have a big man clogging the middle. That's for damn sure with Dexter Lawrence. So that could force Saquon to bounce outside. Then you just need your edge setters there waiting for him. So you actually could see an increase in snap count for Boogie Basham this week. He's the run defending edge setter on this roster. You might see him play a little bit more. But Brian Burns has been great setting the edge this season. And I'll actually tell you the X factor to stopping Saquon Barkley, Alex. It's Drew Phillips playing out of the nickel position. He has been the Giants' arguably best edge setter outside of their actual edge defenders. He has been tremendous getting down in the box and stopping the run on the edge lined up between the linebacker and the cornerback. So I think Drew Phillips might be the key to stopping Saquon Barkley and making sure that he doesn't have an excellent performance in his return to MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, listen, Saquon Barkley, we know what he's capable of. He can break open a game at any given moment. He can take a touch to the house in the blink of an eye. But the Giants probably this is a tough matchup for the Giants in terms of personnel. It really always for the Eagles boils down to how good Jalen Hurts plays. AJ Brown's a star. Devonta Smith, obviously, that'll be fun. That'll be a fun battle to watch, actually. Drew Phillips and Devonta Smith, plays a lot out of the slot. Even Cordell Flott may get some opportunities against him. Kind of wiry versus wiry would be fun there. And then Deonte Banks against A.J. Brown. That's going to be a physical, tough matchup. Tyler Nubin's got to have his back because they love to take shots downfield. And Banks, he's solid in coverage. He's there. He just isn't able to finish a lot of those plays. He's been better lately. So hopefully, similar kind of stature to DK Metcalf, but A.J. Brown, he plays like he's just more physical. He plays a little bit of a different style than DK and a little bit more body control, I think. And listen, A.J. Brown's a superstar at the receiver position. The guy makes plays. Deonte Banks is going to have his hands full, especially Jalen Hurts is probably going to be taking some shots downfield trying to expose Tyler Nubin. So this will come down to a lot with Nubin. But from the running back perspective, as you said, Dexter Lawrence, I know he's not practicing today. Neither is Brian Burns, but both of them expect to play on Sunday. So Azeez Ojulari, another big performance from him would be huge. Seal the edge. Brian Burns obviously fantastic against the run this season so far. Dexter Lawrence has been fantastic against the run. Bobby Okereke, this could be one of those big Bobby Okereke games that really just they get after Saquon. We know, listen, we know what Saquon's weakness is, and it's making him hesitate. The second Saquon hesitates, he freezes a lot of times, and he tries to bounce it out. Just rally to the football. That's all you have to do. No, you can't leave any lanes exposed. You got to clog them up fast. Linebackers got to be flying around the football field. Micah McFadden's going to be a big key component in that kind of strategy there. You just can't. You have to collapse the gaps fast. He will, when he has space, he will take it, and he will turn it into more than you think a lot of times. They have to clog those gaps, fill the holes really, really, really quickly, and be aggressive. You know what I mean? Be aggressive and shoot those gaps. I think that they just have to go downhill, north-south. If they push him to the sideline, a lot of times he gets tackled in the backfield. You know what I mean? He's not a great, he gets out to the boundary and then wraps around type of guy. He's more so, he'll take those gaps and expose it. But if they get him pushed into the outfield and he doesn't cut up field, you can get him for some tackle for losses, which is where I think you kind of mentioned Drew Phillips playing a big part there in run defense, exposing that and shooting those gaps and closing the running lanes in from the slot position. I mean, he's been so good in that regard. So I think, everyone's got to step up though. When it comes to Saquon, everyone's got to have their eyes on him because he can make something happen quickly. But this Giants defense has been playing really well lately. So I'm not too, I would say I'm pretty confident they're going to do a good job.
Yeah, I love the way the Giants defense has been playing. Hopefully they keep it up. Crucial divisional matchup. Alex, this is a fun question that we can probably answer pretty quickly from Jared Sports on the Fireside Giants Instagram comment section. Who are you most excited for in the draft besides a quarterback? I'm just going to throw out there Travis Hunter, Colorado cornerback / wide receiver. He's just awesome. He's probably not going to be a New York Giant. If he is, that's fantastic because he's probably a shutdown CB1 or a premier WR1/2 playing alongside Neighbors. He's just really fun to watch. You can't help but see the Deion Sanders comparisons. He plays under Deion Sanders as his head coach, and he plays cornerback and wide receiver. He's really exciting. No matter where he goes, I'll be a fan of him in the NFL.
I mean, listen, Travis Hunter's a talented individual, whether he plays cornerback or receiver. We'll see what happens with him. He's just a freak athlete. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that you put him anywhere and he'll stand his ground. And it's hard to find players like that. So versatile in a lot of ways. Kind of what we wanted Isaiah Simmons to be. He's been a good player at times, but obviously not getting much playing time these days. My guy's Ashton Jenney. This guy, I don't think the Giants are going to draft him. But man, it is fun to watch a running back that just every single time he touches the ball, he might take it to the house. Talk about speed and contact balance and vision. He's got all of it. It's pretty damn impressive to watch him run the football. He is a true playmaker. And he's like MJD and skinny Eddie Lacy mixed together. Not fat Eddie, but skinny Eddie Lacy. Really talented running back out of Boise. I think that he's going to be a really fun player in the NFL. One of those guys that team like Detroit took Jahmyr Gibbs 2 years back. Someone's going to see him and say, this guy can be a superstar in an offense. I could see Dallas being a good fit for him. I could see the Bengals being a good fit for him and just overhauling an offense in a lot of different ways. So I don't think the Giants necessarily are going to be a good fit because we have other needs. Unless he was there in the second round. In that case, let's have a conversation. But I do think that right now, he's definitely a player I'm really excited to watch. But, we're looking at quarterbacks, dude. We're looking at Garrett Nussmeier and Cam Ward and some of these really, really talented guys. And, a lot of people like Jalen Milroe. I think he needs a lot of work personally with his arm and just playing an NFL offense. But as a runner, dude's a freak. He can do so much on the ground, and he's got the arm strength. It's more so just being an NFL quarterback in an NFL scheme. I think Alabama does hide that in a lot of ways, those weaknesses. But Garrett Nussmeier is one of those guys, Anthony, that you love. I think we'll do an episode of him on another day. But dude's got some serious talent, gunslinger mentality, really great pocket presence, and he's a riser right now. He's not afraid to take risks. And man, some of the throws he makes are just draw dropping. Get him in an NFL scheme where he can make those throws and be aggressive and learn from a coach like Brian Dable for a while before he gets put into the starting lineup, and you might have something special there. So, and I don't think he's going to be a top 10 pick in my opinion. I think he might be a mid-first rounder, and the Giants might be able to trade back, get more draft capital, and get a quarterback like that. So it's possible they go in a direction where that makes sense. We'll see. Again, discussion for another day where we take a look at him in more detail. But I think Ashton Jenney is a really, really exciting player that will find himself in a good situation next year.
Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch. He looks like Michael Myers in the backfield. I love seeing all of the highlights and especially the fan edits of Ashton Gentry. But you kind of started to answer Chris Grotto from Fireside Giants Instagram comments section, his question asking, out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL draft, which one of them is the best fit for the Giants and who would you prefer the Giants to draft? So you pretty much answered that, Alex, but I'll go ahead and give my 2 cents. I don't know. That's really my answer for you because I don't know who's going to be in the draft and I don't know where they're going to be drafted. We always get these questions around October because every year the Giants stink. And I always say, I can't give you a straight answer because I don't know what the draft board is going to look like in April. So I'll dance around and I'll try and answer the best of my capabilities. But honestly, you just mentioned Garrett Nussmeier, Alex. Garrett Nussmeier could be the first overall pick for all we know. You know, he's balling out right now through 6 games in the SEC for LSU, and we've seen these risers, right? These guys who aren't even on the draft board at the start of the college football season. By the end of it, Heisman Trophy winners, #1 overall pick. That could be Garrett Nussmeier. I don't think it will be, but it could be. He could end up being a mid-first round pick. He could end up being a third-round pick if he doesn't play well in the final 3 games of the season. Who the F knows, right? But there are other prospects as well. I like Jalen Milroe. I have my concerns about him, for sure, but I think that he's a player that is so dynamic. If you give him to the right coach, he's going to make him good. He's going to make him real good. And then also Shedeur Sanders, same thing. He has sick arm talent. There's other question marks there, though. Where will he go in the draft? Don't know. The one player that I've always been a fan of, though, I was a fan of him before this year's draft, Cam Ward. He played at Washington State last year. He declared for the NFL draft. That was who I wanted the Giants to draft in the middle rounds if they didn't draft a quarterback in the first. He ended up taking back his declaration for the NFL draft in 2024, decided to transfer, got an NIL deal to play for Miami, and so far does look like a top contender for the Heisman Trophy. If he were to win the Heisman Trophy, we are probably talking about Cam Ward going from a 2024 fifth-round pick to a 2025 first overall pick. So the guy bet on himself, and so far, he's winning his hand of blackjack. He is winning that bet. So you love to see that for Cam Ward, and I think that he has the tools and the traits that Brian Dable will be enamored by. But I also think that of Garrett Nussmeier, we'll see where his draft stock lands, but he's a gunslinger. He's a guy who has a strong arm, great anticipation throwing the football. That's somebody that I could see Brian Dable becoming enamored by, but I also feel similarly about Cam Ward. Also strong arm, loves to throw the ball into tight windows. Any of those quarterbacks that you watch in college football right now that are throwing into tight windows, those seem to be the guys that Brian Dable really likes to coach. And so you might have to take a couple of those other guys and say, well, do they have that skill set? Does Shedeur Sanders throw over the middle of the field as well as Brian Dable might like? Does Jalen Milroe attack downfield and up the seam as well against pro-style defenses? You know, those are other question marks. And again, we'll do our film studies throughout the season. We'll do our film studies for sure in the offseason on the channel. Right now, I can't give you a straight answer to the question. Do appreciate the question. But like I said, there are a few quarterbacks that I'm starting to like. I just can't give you a definitive answer on anyone just yet. But Alex, out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL draft, which one of them do you think fits the Giants the best, and who do you prefer?
Man, it's a tough question. A lot of the top quarterbacks are not that mobile, but man, I something about Cam Ward just screams like he has the upside to be a really, really good NFL player. The arm talent that he has. I mean, there was a throw he made a couple weeks ago where he was like a statue in the pocket, didn't even put his legs into it, all upper body, frozen rope, dude. 25 yards downfield on a dime. Like, you just don't find arm talent like that very often. What I love about him is his release is so fast when he makes the decision. He doesn't even need to put his legs in. You watch Daniel Jones throw the football, right, Anthony? And you watch him pat the ball, and you watch him take a big step, and you watch him wind up, and it's like a freaking age before he gets rid of the football, and by the time he gets rid of it, it's underthrown by 2 yards. Or it's overthrown because it's not the guy's not deep enough. You know, I just feel as though you watch Cam Ward play, he finds that open receiver, he sees what he likes, and that ball is out of there like lightning, and he puts no lower body into it. It's all upper body strength, and it's like he can throw a nice, beautiful rainbow if you want him to. He can loft it in there with some touch. But if he needs to throw a freaking fastball, he can zip it in there at 100 miles an hour, and he can zip it in there 30, 40 yards away. This is not a guy, Anthony, like, remember that Malik Neighbors, like, he was at, someone took a screenshot, it was like Neighbors out there like an outfielder waving his hands wide open, and Daniel Jones threw this lofted pass that took 10 seconds to get there, and then he ended up getting tackled. Could have been a touchdown if it was on time. that's a throw that you see like Cam Ward makes, and he lasers that thing in there at 100 miles an hour on a dime, and Neighbors has tons of time and space to work with now. Those are the differences between big plays and plays that are limited. You know what I mean? Those little details. So, love Cam Ward's game. Really special talent. He's proving it. I mean, he's resurrected a Miami team that was not supposed to be good this year, right? A lot of people were saying this was a catastrophic move for his stock. He has single-handedly turned that whole organization around, that whole team, that whole school around. Has been because of his production, and he's also fought back from some tough interceptions, some red zone interceptions, and I watched him fight back each and every time. We talked about a really key component of what makes Daniel Jones such a suspect quarterback is that he makes a bad decision, and he very rarely returns and comes back from it, bounces back, and then is able to win a football game. A bad interception like we saw last week, that interception happened and he didn't look the same after. He's very, very, very bad at rebounding from a bad moment. Cam Ward rebounded from a red zone interception and went on to score 3 touchdowns consecutively. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of guy, like, he gets pissed off and he produces. Same thing with Garrett Nussmeier, really, really talented player. His stock is rising, but listen, if I'm the Giants and I'm in range of Cam Ward, I'm taking him. I'm not thinking twice, and put a bridge in there for a couple weeks. Let Cam Ward earn that job. If they're struggling, put him in there. But man, like he's capable of leading a team. He's capable of rebounding from a bad moment, and he has that short-term memory where he'll forget about an interception. He'll go back out there and dominate. Is he the most mobile quarterback? No. Have I seen him move? Yes. Like I've seen him pick up some yards on the ground. He wants to stay in the pocket, though, which is what I like about him. He wants to stay in the pocket. He wants to make the throws. He doesn't want to run. And from a health perspective, that's a really good thing. Like, he will stay healthy because of that mentality. I think that's a big benefit of his. And for what it's worth, the Commanders are asking Jaden Daniels to do that a lot more now. Instead of just taking off running, like, look downfield, stay in the pocket, try to find open receivers, run if you have to. And he's still picking up a lot of yards on the ground. But, I think that mentality is a good thing in the NFL, and it will protect him long-term from being injured. But yeah, like I'm in the same boat as you, man. Like Cam Ward's special. You identified him months ago. He's doing some great things in a school that was not supposed to be very good, bouncing back from some bad moments, and that's what you want to see. I don't care about interceptions, guys. You know what I mean? I care about how you respond to interceptions, and he responds in a very positive way. It makes him better, those bad mistakes, and he doesn't usually make them twice. So I think that's usually a good indication of progress and development. I think you give him a coach like Brian Daboll, anything's possible.
Yeah, totally agreed. I think that he's going to be a really exciting player no matter where he lands. And obviously, I've been on the Cam Ward to New York Giants train for a minute, hoping to see that come to fruition if all goes right for him throughout the rest of his college football season. Now, the last question here, Alex, this one comes from Twitter. It's Clutch Mr. 88. Thank you for the question. He asks, what's your guys' trade deadline predictions? Do you think the Giants sell or buy for next season? I think the Giants are just going to hold. I don't think they're going to buy. I don't think they're going to acquire anybody. I don't think they're going to sell off any of their assets. That just hasn't seemed to be their MO over the past few years. Now, I get the argument for it. The Giants could totally pick up an extra mid-round pick for either or both of Darius Slayton and Azeez Ojulari. Those are their tradable assets. But at the end of the day, I think this is a Giants team that right now is 2-4. Yeah. They win on Sunday, they're 3-4, and they're in second place in the division. They have a serious chance still of making a playoff run. They're not going to give up on this just yet. Now, by the time we get to week 9, the trade deadline, the Giants are going to be in Germany. So I don't think they're going to make any trades at the deadline because they're not going to ship off Azeez Ojulari, say, hey, I know you're in Germany right now. Get your ass back to the States. You got to go play for a new team. I think that's a logistical thing that a lot of people probably don't think about. And on top of that, I just don't think this is a Giants team that likes to trade off players midway through the season because they care a lot about their locker room. And trading away Darius Slayton is a guy who has been exemplary over the past 5 years, 6 years actually. Every single day he comes in and he grinds. He never says a bad thing in the media. He praises the team. He's fun on the team's social media channels. He shows up. He shows out. He puts up 700 yards every single year. He doesn't miss a lot of time due to injuries. Slayton is the exact definition of smart, tough, dependable. That's who the Giants want in their building. I can't see them trading him away for a draft pick, even though it might make sense from a future roster building standpoint. And the same thing goes for Azeez Ojulari. He's been banged up, but he's been a really good player in the locker room. And I think the key thing to highlight there is the Giants don't have much depth to spare. They still have question marks about Kayvon Thibodeau, and Kayvon Thibodeau is hurt. On top of that, Brian Burns is playing through an injury. You really don't have any space to trade away your pass rushers, your backup pass rushers, because your starters are banged up. You can't trade away your depth pieces while your starters are injured. That's ridiculous. You're just asking to not win another game for the rest of the season at that point. So I don't think this is a Giants team that's in position to sell off all of their assets like most people do. I get it. I understand the logic behind it. But for me personally, if I have to give you a prediction, I think the Giants are going to hold. I don't think they're going to sell off their assets. I definitely don't think they're going to be buyers at the deadline. I think they're going to stick with this team and try and salvage this season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know what salvaging this season looks like. The only thing I can think of is maintaining morale, right? Like, maybe they just don't want to lose the locker room. And a good way to lose the locker room is to wave the white flag in week 8 or week 9, right? Trading Azeez Ojulari, trading Darius Slayton, some respected veterans there. That's waving the white flag. You know what I mean? Like Dexter Lawrence, he's been a key voice in that locker room. Are you willing to risk fracturing this team? You know what I mean? Is that something that Joe Schoen's willing to risk? Are you willing to fracture this team right now and their kind of vibe? And they still want to win. They're not laying down, man. They want to go to war on Sunday. They're still fighting to save this season. Now there is something called practicality, and if the Giants lose this game, they're not making the playoffs, guys. That's 3 division losses. They're cooked if they lose this game. Last week's loss was basically a death sentence. This is further, kind of importance to win this one. If they lose this game, next game, we're November 5th is coming up in the trade deadline, and we're sitting at 2-6. You trade pieces, because not even the players can sit there and say, yeah, like we're going to turn this thing around. Like it's not happening at 2-6. So you might as well acknowledge the fact that, yeah, like we're a losing football team. Let's go get some trade assets, retool for next year, and be better. And you tell your captains that. Dexter Lawrence, you're here for years, dude. Andrew Thomas, you're here for years. Bobby Okereke, you're here for another 2 years. You know what I mean? You tell these guys, listen, we're going to go trade these pieces, not because we want to, but because this is going to give us a better chance to win in 2025, which helps your cause, helps your case in being leaders on this team and winning football games. So that's the message I would sell. Let the rookies develop, be a leader. I don't know if Azeez Ojulari will be traded. I don't know if they even look. I would say to him, look, we'll give you an extension right now. This is what we have to offer. Take it or leave it. If you don't take it, that means he's probably going to go out and try to find a team that's willing to pay him more as a starter. And that's probably what he does. I think the chances of him leaving are pretty high at this rate, unless he signs an extension soon. So I think you put an offer on the table and say, if you don't take it, or we can't find you a compromise, then we trade you. Darius Slayton, he's good as gone, guys. I mean, they have disrespected him on multiple occasions in terms of not giving him the money that he seeked, and they basically were like, yeah, like you're not worth it. That's what they said to him. Like, through whether it be actually verbatim or through their actions, they basically said, we don't think you're worth this money. Darius Slayton is going to get paid a nice pretty penny. If Gabe Davis can get $13 million a year, Darius Slayton can easily get 10. The Giants are not giving Darius Slayton $10 million a year. It's not happening. And if they do, I'd be very surprised. So, just looking at the situation at hand, Slayton's gone. You might as well trade him. See if Jalen Hyatt's capable. If he's not, draft another receiver in the second or third round next year. This is just the reality of the Giants. You have to make difficult decisions to prepare yourself for the future. And next year's draft is so important, Anthony. We may need an extra draft pick to get a quarterback. We may need an extra draft pick to move up and get a player that can change the course of a position. I think that draft capital, we're going to need it. And we're not going to miss guys that are going to be gone anyway. So you have to make those difficult decisions, in my opinion. I think we will end up trading somebody, if not both Slayton and Ojulari at the deadline, unfortunately. The question is, will Kayvon Thibodeau be back by then? It'll be a close call. Maybe he'll miss 1 or 2 games leading up until his return. They'll have to go with the guys like Boogie Basham, but it is what it is. You're 2-6 at that point in time. If that's the case, this is the kind of assumption I'm going under. Unless we win this week, and then maybe you keep those pieces and you try to keep competing and get back into the season, get back into the fold. And it really, the season's hinges on this game, in my opinion, Anthony. That's kind of how I see it right now. Everything will be determined if they win or lose this game.
Yeah, I don't think they're climbing back from a 2-5 hole. That's like almost impossible. I don't know how many NFL teams have done that in recent seasons, but I imagine it's a very small number. So if the Giants lose this weekend, I do agree. I feel like the season is just about in the toilet. But hey, if they end up winning this weekend and they beat the Eagles, like I said, they're right there in the playoff race, in the NFC race, or NFC East race rather, at the very least. And I think they can definitely make a run. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game unfolds on Sunday. Crucial one. At least Neighbors is back in the lineup. But unfortunately, no Andrew Thomas is going to hurt this team. Not just this weekend, but every weekend forthcoming. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we're going to have all the updates for you throughout the year. But just want to thank you guys again for leaving these mailbag questions. It was a lot of fun going through and answering your questions. Make sure, guys, if you are not following along with us on social media at Fireside Giants, you go check us out, because you'll see opportunities like this to ask us questions, get your name featured, get your question answered on future mailbag episodes. And also, like I said, we just launched the Fireside Discord. If you've got the Discord app, go ahead, join the server, and you can have a direct line to ask us questions and to talk Giants football with us, or Yankees baseball. You know, you can talk that with us. Or if you want to talk Rangers with me, I'm down to talk about the Breadman Artemi Panarin as well. So go join the Fireside Discord. It's going to be your ultimate New York sports fan community. So thanks again for all of the questions. Really do appreciate it. And shout out to BetUS, today's sponsor for the video. Make sure you guys go ahead and use YouTube code 150. But that'll about do it. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Check us out on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review. Catch you all on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go Giants.
Perfect.